All right, everyone, welcome back once again to this Beefcast production. I'm your casting host, Beef. Thank you for joining me. Going into Game 3 of this Best of 5 series coming out of Assembly, Summer 2012. Group stage round of 32 here between this Protoss and the Zerg player. Let's get into it here on Ohana. Tying up the series at 1-1, putting on some beautiful aggression last game, is our Red Zerg. He is Western Wolves, sort of. And in the bottom right-hand corner, his opponent going a little bit too greedy, too economic focused last game. Let's see if he can bring it back in the style of Game 1. He is the Blue Protoss Liquid'HerO. So this play from Sort of last game, it's a lot more indicative of some of these new players that are making their way onto the scene right now. The new pickup for E.G. Suppy, a contemporary of Sort of here. They're friends. They kind of met at this event and have started trading notes a lot. They're just able to put on all this aggression, transitioning away from some of the players of old, some of the Nesties, the Idras, these players that were so confident in their macros, so confident in their mechanics and their decision making that they were just like, oh no, I'm just going to go ahead and macro up every game and I'm going to beat them. I'm never going to lose to any of these all-ins or anything like that, and I'm never going to have to all-in myself because my macro is just better than them. These are players that they have very good mechanics and they just rely on that, whereas these new brand of players have very good mechanics of their own. Their macro is great, but they also have the ability to just say, okay, this person that I'm playing right now, they're vulnerable. I am completely flipping that switch onto the aggression, and that is exactly what Sort of did so beautifully last game. So we'll see if he finds something to punish Hero for this game. Maybe even gonna break him on 2 base. Who knows? Sort of, Suppy, all these new players, very fun to watch. So right now, once again, for the 3rd time in a row, Hero has made his way over with that probe, but the probe going to be going in there and trying to do a little bit of mining. Did, in fact, miss the block onto that hatchery. So quite the victory there for our Zerg player already. Probe going to be making its way back over here with renewed vigor, trying to put a little bit of pressure onto these drones, saying, well, I've got to make up for it somehow. But back home for Hero, he did, in fact, go Nexus first. I believe that's, I don't know, I can't tell. The Nexus and the Forge kind of went down. Maybe that's Forge first. I'm not even sure at this point. We're gonna go ahead and call it Nexus first anyway, but we'll see. Here on Ohana, this is a map that favors Protoss just a little bit more than our Zerg player, just because once again of these 3rd rocks right here. The rocks that are blocking the natural and the 3rd, any map that you see that Zergs particularly are not going to be fond of. Zergs just kind of hate destructible rocks to begin with. They want everything to be nice and open so that there's not going to be any force fields blocking chokes, nothing like that. They want to be able to spread their creep all over the place and transfer their drones and their queens through everything. Just see exactly what's going on inside of their own base. So destructible rocks, not exactly Zerg's friend. Whereas the Protoss player does not mind at all. These destructible rocks are going to be able to very easily be taken down by all the high DPS units, the Stalkers, the Zealots. No problem. Those are going to be going down as soon as the Protoss player does want to take a 3rd. But Zerg players not too fond of them. So we'll see how that does, in fact, end up with our Zerg player. The other thing to note about this map and why Zerg players don't prefer it is because it's a relatively small map. Zerg doesn't really have a whole lot of time to react and build units as the player makes its way across the map. You blink your eye and the Protoss player is already across the map with some blink stalkers. So you don't have a lot of time to react, and also the fact because it's small, there's not a whole lot of bases. The map is very easily dividable right across here in the middle, and there's only 5 bases on each side. So if the Zerg gets to that 5 bases, it's very unlikely that the Zerg is going to be able to take an offensive base, this base or this base. It's very unlikely. So the Protoss can, in fact, just turtle up himself to 5 bases, and 5 base Protoss is a lot better than a 5 base Zerg. So that's another reason why Zergs don't like it too much. That being said, it's still a very good map. It's still a map that's being used in a lot of these tournaments, and a good map in general. I personally don't mind it too much, but it's about a 48% win rate for Zerg right now, I think, in the last month. So just slightly favored for our Protoss player. Let's take a look at these builds. We do, in fact, have a Stargate going down for our Protoss player over here. We'll see if he's going to be using Phoenixes or that Void Ray that he did in Game 1. It is going to be Void Ray. Stalker going to be making its way in there to try to take out that Overlord, and the Overlord is going to be able to escape taking his life into his hands there as he was trying to get that information out. And once again, the Robo Bay going to be coming down as an immediate follow-up to this Stargate. So the Robo Bay is probably going to once again be used to produce that first observer, and that's going to be used in conjunction with the Void Ray to stop the creep spread. Stopping the creep spread, especially even between the second and the third, is actually a huge advantage for the Protoss player. The creep, the movement ability that the Zerg gets from that creep is actually crucial to getting proper surrounds on Protoss armies. So if you're fighting off a creep, that is brilliant. Not as important, many players would say it's not as important as in the versus Terran matchup, but you know, creep is good in all matchups. It's just a little more important in Terran because they are just so aggressive with their scans. If you can force more scans, this is so weird right here. I'm sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought because there's 8 Zerglings and 2 Zealots, you know, mortal enemies right here. And one Roach going to join the fray, and he's going to start, you know, this is going to really just make the shit hit the fan here as the Zealots do, in fact, make their way over and out of there. But the Void Ray going to come. This is so weird to me. It's like there's always a bigger fish, right? The Zerglings kind of try to take it, and then the Zealots come over, and then the Roaches try to fight the Zealots, and then the Void Ray comes in and kills the Roach. Sorry, this is... I've completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, the Void Ray is revealed here as it takes out the first... whatever this thing is. I've completely lost it, man. Oh, I've so completely lost it. Creep Tumor, and the Creep Tumor is not even cancelled, so that's actually a larger blow than it might seem for the Zerg. He really wanted that one Creep Tumor to keep the spread of creep going, and he's going to have to use extra energy off of this queen over here. Already up at 5 queens, so sort of actually playing this a little bit more like it is against a Terran player. Going to be trying to get that creep spread out a little more and going all the way up to 5 queens. But he might have known... No, he didn't know that there was a Stargate out, but he checked the gases properly and knew that there was a possibility of Stargate being out. So just preparing a little bit more with those queens. And right now there are a lot of drones over here at the natural. Actually, not as many as I thought. So sort of actually just going to be trying to macro up behind this. And Zergling's going to be getting in there and trying to force out a couple of force fields. And don't manage to kill any units. So a few Zerglings there trade for a few force fields. You can chalk that one up as you will. But the Observer and the Void Ray over here just kind of hanging out, making sure that there's nothing else going on. And the third base going down once again very quickly for our Protoss player. One Void Ray going to be able to take out all of the drones that are trying to make their way over to the fourth. That Creep Tumor going down once again. So really just making sure that there's no creep between these two bases. And as long as there's no creep, then there's going to be no spine crawlers. And no spine crawlers means you have a weak defense against early gateway and robo aggression. So right now, Infestors have actually made their way onto the field, though, as a couple of fungals going to be going down here onto these Phoenix. And the Phoenix will be falling unless there's a little bit of a screw-up. Yeah, he had one more fungal there, and he needed one, maybe 2 more fungals there. But a couple Phoenixes going to be making their way in once again, and Queen managed to snipe one of the Phoenixes, but there's still a total of 4 Phoenixes out right there, and so he did waste about 3 fungals there. Took a little bit of armor off of these Phoenixes, but not a whole lot. And the Infestor Tech was in fact revealed. Follow-up to the Infestor Tech is going to be a Spire, as there's no Hive coming out, so this isn't going to be for Greater Spire right away. This might be for Colossi, Corruptors to deal with Colossi, which are in fact going to be starting production relatively soon with this Robotics Bay. And trying to punish the third, once again, is going to be our Zerg player, taking his own 4th base over here. Zerg just going in, going to be setting up a little bit of aggression. Void Ray just kind of hanging out over there once again, but there's already a lot of +1 Zealots, there's a lot of Immortals, and going to be able to pick off quite a few Zerglings for just some force fields, maybe losing 1 Zealot, not even going to lose a Zealot right now. Let's look at the resources lost tab. Hero has lost 550, and just lost a Void Ray, so that actually spiked up about another 400 there. But 550 to 2,500, the Zerg player not being nearly as efficient as the Protoss player, which is kind of the story of this matchup. Going up to 5 Phoenixes total once again, going to be making sure to deny any kind of map control from our Zerg player. All the Overlords forced to hang out here in the main base, and even as this drone's going to be making its way over here, going to be baiting out one more, excuse me, Baiting out one more graviton beam, and the drone does fall, trying to get these infestors into position where they might be able to snipe these phoenixes, and the infestors not quite able to land a fungal just yet, and not even going to use the fungal on just one infestor. They're probably a smart move after all. Corruptor is going to be making their way onto the field in addition to Neural Parasite. So all these, this is such a cool play. Going to be using Neural Parasite in conjunction with the Corruptors to deal with any kind of robo aggression. The Neural Parasite going to be going down on high value targets such as these robo units, as the rest of the army does get cleaned up by the ground forces from our Zerg. So this is going to be really cool. The one thing to note is that denying all the map vision on this side of the map has been Hero's main priority. He's not checked this side of the map at all. He has no clue that there is in fact a base over here. So that might come back to bite Hero, just his lack of scouting. So we'll see when he does in fact discover that there is a base over there. But Hero just ramping his infrastructure up right now, wanting to be prepared for anything. Blink already on the way. A total of 9 gates there, 10 gates. No more gates going down over here for the time being, as the second forge is going to be going down so that he can in fact start double upgrades. But Hive Tech has been completed. Adrenal glands can be starting here for our Zerg player. Really wants to be able to use Neuroparasitic and these 4 Corruptors to be able to the Corruptors or whatever other forces he might be making. Some Broodlords, as the Greater Spire is in fact going to be finishing. Wants to be able to take out this Colossi very fast and use the Zerglings to get in there and do massive amounts of damage. The drones are going to be in a lot of pressure over here. All of these drones are going to fall from the Phoenixes as Hero does finally scout that base. Once Warcrawler was already going down, but not going to be building quite fast enough, and Hero is going to be starting to move out right now. The Broodlords are in fact morphing, and this is going to be a really rough defense here from our Zerg player. These infestors actually not even being hotkeyed. He might lose those infestors, and with all that energy, it's going to be a real big loss if he does in fact. Okay, he's finally got them. So Broodlords are being morphed back at base. I was a little bit worried that they were the Corruptors that were in that location right there. But with these Broodlords being morphed, as long as there's a proper engagement from the Zerg, I see no problem in the Zerg really holding this, even without Spine Crawlers. Drone is going to be making its way over here, and the Phoenix not picking that drone up like it should have. But right now, here's a big engagement to be coming in. A couple of fungals going to be going down there onto those Phoenixes, trying to get that done as soon as possible. And Neural Parasite attempting to go out onto some of these robo units, but not quite able to get in there. The Broodlords are going to be raining down hell from the back, and the Roach is going to be cleaning up quite a few units here in the front. The Stalkers are going to be forced to retreat. The sentries have all fallen except for just 2 back here. So just a few force fields left, but with all the Broodlords still in action, we need to see a big blink up here. But the fungals are going down, and they're actually very nice fungals over here. The Roach is doing a nice job of sniping all the stalkers that are trying to get under these Broodlords, but with all these Broodlords being staggered back here and no answer to the Broodlords in sight right now for Hero, the mothership has just finally started, and it's looking like SortOf is actually in great shape to take game number 3 here. Still working off of just the 7 Broodlords. That's really all he needs, as long as he has forces under him to really support that. The Broodlords are going to be getting sniped here, but look at all these Zerglings going to be coming in right here. 1-1 Zerglings with Adrenal Glands, just as Tutu is in fact going to be hitting, and the Broodlords did fall predominantly. Only 1 Broodlord, 2 Broodlords going to be left for now, but the 4th base is in fact going to get sniped, and without any Colossi on the field for the time being, all of these Zerglings are just going to be so deadly. Lots of Zealots being warped in as a very strong counter to the Zerglings, in addition to the Colossi that are just starting again now. It's worth noting that the 4th base over here did in fact fall. All these Zealots have cleaned up a lot of drones. Sorry, I'm just all over the place right now. A total of 24 workers being killed for now. The Broodlords going to be making their way in there once again, but with the Colossus here on the field, the Colossus is going to do a pretty good job at cleaning up all these Zerglings. But look at that, an absolutely beautiful Neural Parasite does go down, gives the Zerglings the time to make work of all those Zealots and start to close the distance, but not quite enough time after all. The final Broodlords do end up going down. A lot of the infestors make their way out of there, however, and that's it. The one good thing here for our Zerg player, as he did lose the majority of that army, so Hero being able to mount a very good defense there Infestors being forced to use a little bit of their energy there to stall these Phoenixes so the Queens can come over and get the snipes off. One more Infestor, or excuse me, one more Phoenix still on the map here. So these Phoenixes have been doing a pretty good job from Hero the entire time. But Hero trying to make his way across right now. This is a low eco, low army count for both players for the time being. Zergling's going to be making their way in there right there, but this is the X factor right here. The mothership. As soon as that thing hits, as soon as this thing hits 88 miles an hour, right? No, as soon as it hits 100 energy, the Vortex will be on the table. And with a pretty small army for our Zerg player, that Vortex could be pretty deadly. There's also no detection on the field for our Zerg player right now. He's so poor. He doesn't really have time. And look at that. There was the Vortex being able to suck just a few units in there, but that's all he needed was just to be able to get the units right there gone so that he could clear up all these spine crawlers. All he wants to do right now is to try to kill this hatchery. He wants to be able to get in there and do as much economic damage as possible. All the Infestors do end up coming out, and 4 Infestors fall immediately, getting off a couple of fungals there. And Corruptor is going to be trying to break the lines, but the Protoss player is just going to blink forward, a big blink forward right there from those Stalkers. They're going to be able to snipe down all of the Brute Lords. The last one going to be falling right there. There's still one down here in the left-hand corner as well, in actually a beautiful position to deal with all these units, as it's going to be raining down hell on a couple of these units. But look at that, sort of GG's out, and game 3 goes to Hero, taking the lead once again at 2-1. So look at that. Very nice job here from our Protoss player. When he was marching down here with all those Broodlords, I was saying, oh man, he's going to take this. He's in a really good position. He had just cleaned up absolutely everything. But all those Zerglings that were made were so hard countered by the Zealots and the Colossi. So he threw away a lot of supply in Zerglings trying to fight the Zealots and the Colossi, which I think he didn't need to do. He should have taken a look at all these photon cannons right here, the Zealots and the Colossi, and said, I can't fight this with nothing but a couple of Broodlords and some Zerglings. He should have pulled back. He was in a good position, but he did in fact lose this base over here as well, so maybe not in as good of a position as I had once thought. But beautiful play by Hero nonetheless. Sort of, it's on him to be able to bring back in game number 4 and tie up the series and take it to a possible game 5. We'll see if he can do it. Thank you for joining me once again. I've been your casting host, Beef. We'll see you in the next